sure. If anybody's watching us on Facebook, hello.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be a whole new learning curve.
Yes. This is all about mental stresses, isn't it? So, okay, we have 2 minutes. I'm trying to see on the Facebook page to also see how it's looking.
Lola, she's asking you to let her in.
Who is that?
Chinwe
Ronke is the one doing all that. Ronke,
okay,
please
Ronke,
keep
let
an
her
eye in the. Okay, we are live. I think I can see you.
Sorry, is lipstick matter, no vex.
Oh my goodness.
So we're live on Facebook and we're starting in 60 seconds, I guess. We're going to go into it in about 60 seconds. So what I would say is that I'll do a brief intro and then I will just throw the questions and we'll just go with the flow and see how it goes. I also want us to touch on the employees side of things as well. So not just individuals thinking about their occupational mental health at work, but also employers also thinking about how they can start to think about their employees' mental health so that they can actually start to be more aware and start to think about them in that space as well. So I think we can start now. So hello, Dr. Chinwe, Dr. Kemi, and Mrs. Ajo. I know Mrs. Ajo doesn't like being called Mrs. Ajo, so she's really Mrs. Balogun. And we're here talking about occupational mental health. Dr. Chinwe Obinwa is
It's hanging.
and Mrs. Ajo Balogun is an HR consultant.
Sorry, Lola. Lola, we didn't hear anything. We heard Chinwe's name and then there was blank.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is this any better now?
It's better now. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I can see it buffering on Facebook. So I don't know if it's my internet. Anyway, so I'll start all over again, and I was just doing a brief introduction. My name is Lola Soyannwo Kogbodoku. I am the MD of Health Boxes, and we have here today Dr. Chinwe Obinwa, who is a psychiatrist in the UK with over 20 years experience. Also, we have Dr. Kemi Akanle, who also has over 20 years experience in psychiatry, based in the UK as well as in Nigeria, and Mrs. Ajo Balogun, who's bringing in the human resources element into the conversation, and she is the MD of JobRed. Dr. Chinwe and Dr. Kemi are partners in Green Oaks Consulting. So if you follow us, you would see some of their posts. Please also follow them and like them, and you can get to know more about occupational mental health. Now, I will just throw this first question onto into the room for people to just, so anybody who is happy to jump in and just answer the question. What exactly is the aim of occupational mental health, and why should we be interested in it?
I can talk a bit around that. So first of all, we need to think about mental health to begin with. And in order for us to have happy, sound, and productive lives in general, our mental health has to be stable. we can't achieve those things without a sound mental health. And then when you talk about occupational mental health, again, in order for you to be productive at work, you have to have a sound mental health in order to perform to the best of your abilities. So when we talk about occupational mental health, we're looking at how we can support not just employees, but also employers to create a conducive working environment for their employees, to look at things that may influence adversely or proactively the productivity of their employees. We're looking at things like absenteeism, presenteeism, resilience, burnout, support at work, understanding what's expected of them, and also creating safe places where people at work can ask for help if they are struggling. And we also need to bear in mind that we're all different people working in a workplace, but each of us have families and homes that we've all come from, and there are various situations going on in people's homes that they may inadvertently bring with them to work. So it's also about providing the support to deal with whatever is going on in their home lives. And ultimately, you're trying to create that work-life balance that's going to give them the ability to work to the best of their abilities at home, but also have a happy and creative lifestyle outside the office. So that's more or less what you're looking at when you're thinking about occupational mental health.
Yes. Can I just jump in as well?
Mm-hmm.
And if we think that our employees are the greatest investment that a company can have, so when we look at occupational mental health, we feel it's key for all organizations to have this in mind, because not only do you support your employees to work optimally, you also provide an environment for them to thrive. So that's just all I want to add.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I know I dropped off there for a second. Okay. Sorry, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Lola.
Yeah, we can hear you, we can see you.
Okay, so I know I missed a bit there, and but I'm sure that Dr. Akanle answered the question, right? Is there anything anybody else wants to add?
No,
This
I think
is now this is the mental health stressing situation for me right now. Where I have
honestly,
no control.
I think
Over
from what Chinwe said as well in follow up to Kemi's comments, is for me the big thing there is investment. I think that's a word that we have to actually be paying attention to, because it's about organizations making an investment in their people so that they can be more productive, they can be more employee engagement in the workplace. And of course, understanding that because the world has changed now with this disruption, it's about how do we make sure that even if we're working remotely, everybody that is doing so is still doing so productively. They are happy at the work that they are delivering on, and the organization is also happy at the results that they are getting from their employees. So investment is huge. Well-being is huge, obviously, and it's not only about organization ownership. It's also about self-ownership. So if I'm working in an organization, what am I doing to make sure that I am happy in what I'm delivering on? How am I making sure that I have the tools that I'm going to use to deliver on those goals and those roles? So we also have to take self-ownership about that.
Okay, so if I'm putting my hat on now as an employer, because since we're talking about this in the workplace, so if I'm putting my hat on now as an employer, and I'm hearing the word investment of my people, I'm hearing and that's immediately telling me, oh, you're going to have to spend even more money aside from paying salaries. How am I going to guarantee that this investment, is it extra? Is it part of their salaries? How does that translate to me as an employer?
Can I jump in?
Yes, Dr.
So
Chinwe,
if you think about it this way, you've got your staff, and they've said, oh, Green Oaks Consulting have said, look, you need to invest in your staff. Let's look at their mental well-being. And it's all about increasing productivity and increasing your bank balance. Now, what if I told you that there is research evidence to say that this with supporting your employees' mental well-being can actually increase your turnover by, we're looking at 12 to 19%, just by focusing on that. The point I'm making is, for every £1 you invest in your staff, think about how much more you're going to get out of that. A lot of things we don't see in the workplace, you know, looking at stress-related disorders, burnout. You have the staff coming in, but they're not being productive. More than absenteeism is the issue of presenteeism. I mean, that is actually worse, because they're at work, so they're counted as being at work, and you infer productivity from their presence, but actually they're not being productive. It may be that not only not being productive, but they may be undermining the productivity of others that are in work as a result of behaviors that stem from their mental health difficulties. And when we talk about mental health difficulties, please, I don't want us to think about our patients in Yaba, because I know when I talk about mental health, they're thinking, it's those people in Yaba left. I'm talking about us at work, because the bulk of the mental health difficulties are at work. You know, so when you think about investing in your staff to be more engaged, to be good corporate citizens, to thrive, to motivate others to thrive, and then having managers that actually understand how to support the staff, ensuring workload is appropriate, supervision, support. They are measures that companies can put in place. And I keep asking organizations, corporate organizations, what is your well-being strategy? Because if you haven't got one, how are you going to invest in your staff to make them more productive? So, you know, so that's what I want to put in there, that you might see it as, oh, we don't have money, and then you're asking us to come and spend money. We don't think this is important. We're only going to spend money on important things. I will argue that this is essential. It's essential for business growth. What COVID has done is to lay bare a lot of organizations, not just in Nigeria, across the world, you know, about, you know, to lay bare the deficiencies in the mental well-being support for their staff. I mean, Dr. Akanle and I work in the UK. We've seen it. You know, I've done talks for international organizations. They've seen it, and they all know there's the need, but because it's not in your face, and what COVID has done is to bring these deficiencies to the fore.
And also, you need to understand that the employees know when an employer has invested in them.
Yes,
it's plain. You know, they know that they're supported. Their career progression is supported. Courses are paid for. They feel it's a safe place. So then, if you're sowing into them, basically, then they feel the need to then sow back into the company. But a lot of times, I mean, we've all been in offices where somebody is going, well, I don't see why I should kill myself. It's not like this is my father's house. I'm only going to do the barest minimum. I leave at 9, I come in at 8, I leave at 4 or 9 and leave at 5, you know, and they're just, or you've been there where somebody is laptop open, Google is somewhere, Yahoo is somewhere, that, you know, the laptop is there, they're at their desk, but their mind is elsewhere. And that is what presenteeism is. Or you get the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed new employee who comes in, and then you have these people the jaded people in the company who are kind of like, well, calm down, you know, there's no need for you to be killing yourself. I mean, you know, and then they just discourage these people who mean well and want to do well. So, I mean, if you look at places, let's look at international companies like Google, for example. You walk into Google in the States, and the whole place looks like it's a fun place to work. You look forward to going to work in the morning. There are added incentives to make you productive. And those are the things that people think, oh, this is a waste of my time. It's a waste of my money. Why should I invest? But just by doing simple things like that, you will get your people wanting to go above and beyond. They're going to want to do more. They're going to want to be, you know, it's going to incentivize them. There's going to be innovation. There's going to be new ideas. It's not just clocking in and clocking out. So those are the kind of things that as an employer, you have to invest in your staff. And people would sometimes go, well, what if I invest in my staff and then they go away? Okay, maybe that can happen. It's not impossible, but don't look at it that way. It's a case of if you create the environment, you will get the loyalty from your employees and they will stay and they will help you build your company. But if you don't, then yes, they will move on to the next best thing. So it is really important that you have to invest in your company and your employees.
Yes.
Just to add on from what
Thank you,
Kemi has
Kemi.
said,
I think that
sorry to jump in when she talked about investing and people moving on. If you invest in their well-being, the idea is to reduce turnover of staff. Because even in, you might say, oh, all right, it's Nigeria, we have a lot of people looking for jobs. Now think about it. The staff that is leaving with the wealth of experience, knowledge that they have gained from you. And, basically you've invested in another company because they're just going to go elsewhere with that. And so when we talk about return on investment, that's what we need to be thinking about when we invest in your staff, and then getting not only just good engagement, I stress good corporate citizenship as well.
Yeah.
And part of that is being loyal to the company.
Yeah, so that reduces turnover, and then you get a return on your investment, definitely. So people shouldn't try and go, well, if I invest in them, they're just going to leave. If you create the conducive environment, they will stay and they will be loyal and they will grow in your company.
Yes.
I think I need to add to that in the sense that where we are in this part of the world, which is Nigeria, there's a lot of change that needs to happen in the way that we think. Obviously, what is going on now means that the rest of the world, as it were, should I just say the Western world, whatever it is that we want to label them as, they've always been a step ahead of us. So we're always playing catch up. We've always done that. Particularly now, in terms of what we're talking about in this forum. I spoke to a friend of mine when we're trying to sell this well-being and happiness training to him. And he was like, well, this is Nigeria, Ajo. I mean, I don't actually buy your argument, because where we are, people are looking for jobs. Everybody's, thinking about how they're going to make money and pay their rent and all the rest of it. That they should be happy that they have a job. That really what happens is that here in this part of the world, they should just give them a knock on the head and say, please get on with it too. You're happy that you have a job. So there's a lot of work that we still need to do around that school of thought, because there are going to be a lot of hurdles for us in terms of selling this concept to them. And I think that is the biggest aspect for us. It's all well and good talking about the things that they should be doing, but we also need to make sure that they understand that it's also about going back to their values. What is their vision in the organization? What are the things, what is their culture? What are the things that they want to be known as, How do they want to be seen in the external, in the outside world? So I feel that we have to do a lot of work in terms of the value system, the service delivery that they also want to put out there. And then, sell this aspect about well-being and happiness. So we have a lot of work to do. There's no doubt.
It is a lot of work, Ajo, because one of the hardest things to change in any organization is the culture.
Yes.
It's one of the most difficult things to change. If you already have an embedded toxic culture, it's going to take a lot to turn it around. It's not impossible, but it's one of the hardest things to change. So you're absolutely right. It's one of the things that we need to focus on and support people in how to start to turn that around in their organizations.
And it's one of those concepts where it's a top-down, it has to be a top-down, implementation, because if the senior management, if they don't buy into the idea, then it's not going to happen. They will not create the environment for it to happen. And so a lot of the discussion needs to happen with the senior management team, the board. In fact, I would argue that that is where the training, and that is where they are the group that we need to target, because once they're on board, things would just happen organically. I just want to bring the example of the CEO of Lloyd's Bank. And if you go on the Green Oaks website, you would see this clip. Now, during the financial crash, we all, everybody, the whole world was affected, during the financial crash in that happened in the noughties. And he knew there was a problem coming. He knew the state of the finances in their bank, and he was not sleeping. He was not sleeping. He struggled. And this continued, and he realized that actually he wasn't being productive and his mental state was struggling. And he went to the board and said, look, I need some time off. He took some time off, got himself sorted, treated, and came back. But what that did was an appreciation of how important mental health was. And what happened, the policies in terms of mental health, well-being and support for the staff of Lloyds Bank changed. It changed because he had a personal experience. Now, we don't all need to have a personal experience. The evidence is there. In fact, there is so much evidence about workplace mental health. Occupational and organizational psychiatry is booming in the States, is on the rise in UK. And I know in Nigeria, yes, we do play catch up, but COVID has has leveled the world. So we really, really need to take it seriously. And I would urge anybody in a place of leadership in any organization to look into workplace mental health more seriously.
Yes.
Okay, so I know the examples that you brought. So I want to bring it closer to home now, because as health boxes, of course, we have a lot of consultants. So Dr. Chinwe and and also Dr. Akanle, if you want to reach out to them through us, that's also possible. Now, in the instance of, because we have lots of cases in Nigeria of people high up actually, because it's in as much as, yes, there's mental health, there's also physical health that the workplace adds pressure onto your body system. So we've had people actually dropping dead at their desk. We've had people with strokes, heart attacks at work. And how does mental health, occupational health, work-life balance, how does that help? How does the organization, what sort of things can they start to implement, or strategies it can start to put into place now for that to stop happening with the organizations? Because it's still bad for your brand. So that's one question. And then it seems like right now we're mentioning a lot of large organizations, but what of SMEs, like health boxes and an SME, for example? What can small businesses also be putting into place to make sure that, to instill that sense of loyalty, that caring about their mental health, about their physical health is important? What sort of things can be put into place?
Yeah, I can answer the first question. And I think COVID, being a double-edged sword, yes, it came with a lot of grief and heartache, but it also brought new opportunities. So if you look at all of us now, if you had told us in 2019 that we could be having all kinds of conversations without physically being in the office, we would have said it's not possible. So that in itself has been a revolution, in the sense that people can do so much more without having to physically, struggle through traffic, leave their houses at 4 a.m. in the morning, get to work, and they're already exhausted, they're cranky, they're irritable. So it's about having that ability to kind of let people have remote working sewn into their work routines as a normal thing. So as there are large companies out there who've remotely been working from home. I mean, LNG is one of them. Some of their arms have been working from home and for the entire year, and they are just as productive as they would have been if they were in the office. So it's not impossible. These are things that we need to look at. So what we're looking at is, how can we be more creative with our workplace? Not everybody has to be in the building at the same time. Not everybody has to be on the road trying to get to work through traffic. Some people can work from home. Some people can have remote offices in places close to where they live. That might be another option. So it's just about trying to think of ways where it's not the conventional 9 to 5 anymore. There's so many things that we can do with good internet, of course, but there's so many things we can do to achieve that work-life balance, whereby you don't have to physically be in the building. Because we need to look at Nigeria in its uniqueness. Outside the office, there's a lot of stress going on. I mean, people, depending on where you live, have to leave home at some ungodly hour. They have to stay in the office till some ungodly hour to go back home because they're trying to avoid traffic. That in itself is enough to raise your blood pressure and give you stress. So, you know, if you can work out something with your employers, and the employers have to also be willing to give and say, maybe you don't need to come in, you only need to come in twice a week, or, you know, a number of days a week, and the other days you can work from home. So those are the kind of things that we need to start thinking about, and whatever things that are unique to that particular company, that, you know, what is it about your staff that needs to happen? So I'll give you an example. When I worked in Nigeria, it was a few years ago, I had to drive around seeing clients. And I used to structure my clients such that, because I lived on the mainland, I would see the mainland clients before I went to the office in VI, and then leave the island clients in the afternoon whenever I got there in the evening. The MD was not impressed. He thought I needed to come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and then start making my rounds. And he just couldn't understand why I said to him, well, when I leave my house in the morning, it's easy for me to see everybody in Ikeja and that axis, and then drive to VI and see the other clients. So it's those kind of things, to not be rigid and inflexible with whatever rules and regulations you impose on your staff. You know, there are creative ways of achieving things. And as long as you achieve the bottom line, these things are doable. It doesn't have to be a case of, you must do what we said, and 8 o'clock you must resume, and then we do this and we do that. And, you know, even here in the UK, I've done meetings on my phone, at home before I've left the house. You know, remote working has made life completely more flexible, and you find that the person is even more productive because they're less stressed. They haven't spent hours in traffic, and by the time they get to the office, they're tired and they can't think. So those are the kind of things in relation to your first question. And then I guess, Chinwe, if you want to talk about the SME side of things.
Yes, so I think, I mean, even looking at small businesses, I think the principle is the same. The principle of having a top-down approach in embedding organizational culture. I mean, that works whether it's a small business or a large corporation. I would argue that small businesses might find it easier to incorporate those principles. So as one of the leaders, when you acknowledge, actually, it's okay, I am struggling, and I'm telling my staff, look, I'm struggling, ensure you take your leave. I don't expect you, because I'm working late, all of you have to stay in the office to, because you can't leave before madam leaves. Mm-hmm. No. So if the leadership, sort of embeds and shows good example, it filters down, and it's easier to do that in a small business. Now we've talked about the advantages of remote working. Again, it is a double-edged sword, because what is becoming clear is remote working has blurred the life-work balance boundaries. Mm. So whilst there are the advantages, we also need to think about the, I don't want to say disadvantages, but
disadvantages is a good word, actually.
Boundaries, sorry? Yes.
Disadvantages is a good word.
Mm. Well,
let's go with that. Yeah,
it's a bit of a strong, it's a bit of a strong word to describe.
I'll tell you why. Just finish, Chinwe. I'll tell you why.
Yeah, because the life-work balance. People have converted their homes. Your dining table is your dining room, is your office, is your school room, and usually, yes, there's traffic, but when you leave work, you know that, okay, switched off, I'm going to work, maybe I'll see some of my girls, we'll go and, maybe have a drink and hang out before we go home. But now, because you're at home, you probably haven't taken the time. Okay, some of, people might just put on a shirt and put lipstick on, and they're wearing their pajama bottoms. So the routine that is helpful and protective of our mental state is lost. Let's not forget that routine is protective. So that is something that, as an organization, if you want to promote remote working, you also need to support your staff on tips and ways of working remotely in a healthy, mentally healthy way.
Yeah.
And what you now find is you have back-to-back meetings. I'm in a situation where I was in the back-to-back meeting. I struggled to go to the toilet. And at the end of the day, I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm out of sorts. And we talked about it. Look, this, we can't do this. Some people actually schedule in breaks as, just to remind them to get up and stretch. So let's not forget that while, we want to promote creative and flexible working, the routine and structure that we need to protect our mental health, we mustn't lose that because we're remote working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually going to.
That is the big thing, isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Chinwe, because when you started, I was like, I don't know what Chinwe is talking about. There's so much going on in my head. And for me, the first thing was when you said about how it should be a top-down approach. That is really a good idea, but there also needs to be employee involvement, because I find that there's an organization we're working with at the moment, and it's all been about this top-down approach. And those things are more and more going out the window, because you need to actually involve your employees in every single thing that you're doing. That is why people have focus groups. So the first thing that I would add to that is that we need to also ask people how they are feeling. There's so many easy ways of doing that, like you just said. It can be that there's sort of a room that is set up online, virtual room, where they can go to and say, oh, we're having these discussions, 15 minutes of whatever day of it is in the week, just to talk and have somebody actually listen to you. Yeah. That is a very simple hack to do, to actually understand how people are feeling and how they're getting on in their work. Then, of course, again, okay, I've talked about the employee engagement already, or involvement. For me also, the second thing is that it is so hard working from home. It is the hardest thing anybody has ever been asked to do. And I think even in my discussions with Lola, even in this week of trying to set up this chat that we're having now, I had to just switch everything off for like 5 days because I had high blood pressure. I was on my computer for like 18 hours of every day. Yeah. I was sleeping like 5 or 6 hours, waking up and going back to that laptop all over again. Of course, I had high blood pressure. So these are the things that I'm sure just about everybody else is experiencing. Yes. But doing it quietly and just getting on with it. Yeah. These are the things that we need to be talking about and the things that we have to be changing. I even had to call health boxes to say I needed blood. Sorry.
So I just wanted, because I know we had said we are not going to bore our listeners for too long. We just were going to do about half an hour. Yeah. We've got past our mark now. But I wanted to also stress, we've been talking so much about the employers, as if they're the bad guys now. What of the employees?
No, we're talking about employees
How can
now.
They start?
Well, actually,
what can they, the employees, start to do to be able to?
Exactly, that's where I was heading. That's where I was heading. And sorry, go on.
So in their own places, at home, before they get to work, what are the things that they can start to do to be able to guard their own mental health? Because maybe the man at the top is actually not going to be listening. We have to take that into consideration until this collaboration of Health Boxes, Green Oaks, and Job Red can revolutionize how occupational mental health is being seen in the workspace. What can you, the employee, because there might be people here that are just employees, what can they be doing? What kind of hacks?
That's what we're talking about before you came on. Okay. I just wanted to add,
but I also wanted you to also, because I know you're a happiness coach, I also wanted you to touch on that happiness part just a little bit. Maybe we have about 10 minutes. We crave their indulgence just to.
I can even just talk for like 2 minutes. Yeah, I think for me it's about the self-love aspect, and I'm a perfect example of that, because like I said earlier, I've had to shut down for like 5 days. It was the best thing that I ever did for myself. I exercise almost just about every day. I'm always taking breaks and all the rest of it, but that was not enough. I needed to actually approach it from a mindfulness aspect, which meant that I was more conscious of everything that I was doing. So I decided, I'm just going to give you a few hacks. The first thing that I did was to exercise twice a day, which I've only ever done it once, but now I'm doing it twice a day. So you just basically set the time for you that works, whether it's at 8 a.m. when you wake up, what it is that you're going to do, or whether it's at 8 p.m., what that exercise is actually going to be as well. That really actually removes you from that from that space of work where all you're doing is being on your laptop and sending in all these documents and all the rest of it. The second thing that I did was, apart from having to monitor my blood pressure, was to tell myself that this is not all my life is about, that there are other things that I can actually be doing. So I normally watch TV, but for the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've basically watched no TV. But that again was the conscious effort for me where I said, oh my gosh, I have something to look forward to. And I went online and I found a series and all the rest of it. So it's also about removing yourself from that stress environment and saying, okay, I'm just going to go and do something else. Whether I'm just walking around in the grass in my garden for 5 minutes, it actually gives you a refreshness of mind. So these are the simple things that we can all do for ourselves. And just remember that actually, if we don't look after ourselves, that organization is going to carry on going long after we've gone anyway. Yeah. And then the other thing that I'd like to add before Lola kicks me off the chat is that you can actually have people within your organizations who are taking charge of all of these little things. Whether you create somebody who's your happiness coach or somebody who's your L&D champion, somebody is thinking about, oh, what is Chinwe doing today? Let me check in on Chinwe at 10 past 10 or whatever it is. Just those little hacks can actually change the way that we all work. So let me hand over to somebody else. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also advocate for mental health champions as well in the workplace. So just as Ajo said, have somebody, a designated person who you can talk to, who is checking up on staff, who knows how to link in with whatever help that person needs. And also, just to add about working from home, it's about creating, so you're asking what the employees can do. Create a structure in your home. So yes, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, people were just working. They'd start working at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning. They're still at the dining table working. There were all kinds of repetitive strain injuries that people were complaining about, and all sorts of things were going on. So create a structure as though you were in the office. You know, if you're in the office, you probably would work 9 to, I don't know, 12, 1, have a break for an hour, come back, do some bits. You'd stand up from your desk, you'd walk around, you'd go into your garden, walk around, you'd do something, and you'd finish at 5. You know, so put those structures in place. Don't just start working from 6 a.m. and 11 o'clock in the morning, in the evening, you're still at the dining table. It's not helpful. So when you're supposed to take a break, as you would in the office, take a break. When you're supposed to have lunch, as you would in the office, have lunch. When you're supposed to close, as you would in the office, shut off the laptop, close and, you know, unwind. Whatever you're going to do, if you're going to spend time with family, you're going to watch TV, if you're going to go out for a walk, whatever it is, just have a structure in place, because not having a structure just means that you're working endlessly and you're just blurring the lines, and it's not good for you physically, it's not good for you mentally. And one more thing about, because you did ask about occupational health versus occupational mental health. So again, we're all working from home. You know, if people haven't done that already, invest in some office furniture if you can. Get a proper desk, get an ergonomic chair, because sitting at your dining table, and I'm sure we all experienced this, I know I did, I was at the dining table for I think the first 6 months, and I just noticed I had backache, I had shoulder ache, and it was all that bending and hunching over.
Exactly.
Yes. So and I've converted part of one of my bedrooms into, I have a proper desk and a proper office chair. I had to go out and buy these things because, you know, there was a time when I had back pain for like 3 days straight, and it was all the way I was positioned, because your dining tables are not set up for you to work 12 hours stretch with your laptop, you know, staring at the screen. So if you can, I know a lot of Western countries, their employers were actually offering some kind of financial incentive for people to buy furniture into their homes. That might not necessarily be the case in Nigeria, but you know, if there are some companies out there that are willing to invest, or employees that can invest in that, it's your health at the end of the day. So it's a good thing to try and make sure that you have the right.
Sorry, let me just to say quickly, and even if you don't have the proper desk on the proper table or whatever proper desk or proper chair, it's also about saying to yourself that, okay, I'm only going to be at my laptop for 2 hours at a time. And then you move away from that. Even 2 hours is quite long, but just have a time frame where you're saying to yourself that, okay, I need to stand up now and just move away from this thing. So I think that can also help.
Thank you very much. I'll just ask Ronke quickly. Ronke, are there any questions that have been put in the chat box as we've been talking? Because we can't really see anything since we're in the session. So Ronke is my able assistant for help boxes. He's my number 2. but she's not talking.
Is she there?
Okay, so I can't see any Facebook comments.
Let me see if there's any.
I know we had a comment in the
We had a
Zoom as
comment
well.
from Vivian, yes.
Yes, but it wasn't a question.
But we've got other people on the Zoom call. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah.
No questions, ma.
Sorry?
No questions so far.
No questions so far.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just throw it open to the people on the Zoom. Is there anybody that has any questions for our experts that they would like to be discussed? Maybe I think we can probably ask for like another 5 minutes before we close. You can unmute yourself and talk because we're all going very I don't know. We're not being rigid in this conversation. If anybody has any questions.
Can I just say something, Lola? I think you were asking me something about the happiness aspect. Can I just add to that quickly before anybody comes up with more questions, if there are any?
Okay.
Just to say that again, that's also about our conception of what happiness is. We all feel that, oh, if I had a bigger car, if I had a better paid job, I'll be happier and all the rest of it. But don't forget that happiness comes from within.
Yeah.
What do you tell yourself that you're happy about? And also, especially in this part of the world, a lot of the young girls rely on this fact that, oh, when I get married, my husband will make me happy. Oh, when I have a child, I'll be happy. Oh, when this happens, your happiness does not sit on anybody else's shoulders except on yourself. So try and remember that and say, okay, these are the little things that I want to do to make myself happy. No matter how basic they are, no matter how elaborate they might be, write them down, obviously, as any goal that you would, and try to work towards that. But what is important there is the fact that that better paid job is not going to make you happy if you're not happy in yourself. So just keep asking yourself, reach out to us if you need to just help you with these little hacks. And the other thing, again, that I'd like to add to that is about gratitude. Being grateful for what you already have instead of spending so much time concentrating on what you don't have. That is likely to take away from anybody's joy. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Any of the doctors, do you have anything else you want to add to the discussion? How are we going to be the best people walking the face of the earth, balancing work, life, and happiness?
It's a conscious.
I think I agree with. Go on, Kemi. I was going to say I agree with.
It's a conscious effort. Yeah, it's a conscious effort that we have to make. We're not suddenly just going to become happy, productive members of society. We have to put in the work ourselves. So you have to make that decision that, you know what, I'm going to make a conscious effort to be the best I can at home, be the best I can at work, and be the best I can in general. And just be mindful of what you're doing. Mindfulness is about being in the present. So you have to be aware of what you're doing in the present. You know, if you be aware that, oh, I've been doing whatever I've been doing for 5 hours and this is probably not right, I need to switch it off or move on to something else. Just be aware of what you're doing in the present. Because a lot of times we're either living in the past, regretting something that's happened, or we're worrying about something that hasn't even happened that we have no control over. And that's how anxiety comes. We're constantly just not living now, but, you know, going back and forth between the past and the future, the past and the future. So it's a conscious effort for you to be happy, for you to be mindful, for you to be present, for you to say, you know what, this is what's important to me, family, home life, whatever it is. And exactly like Ajo said, happiness comes from within. Nothing and no one can make you happy if you're not happy yourself. No man, no child, no money, no house, no car, no job, nothing, unless you're happy yourself from within. And you have to make a conscious effort to say, you know what, I am going to be happy. Regardless of anything that happens, it's easier said than done. I'm going to make a conscious effort to be happy.
Thank you so much. We have a quick question.
Chinwe wants, okay.
Can I just add one thing?
Okay.
And I totally accept and agree, you know, what Ajo and Kemi have said. And so, you know, sometimes I do have that patients that say, but they can't stop worrying. And what I say to them is, if you feel or you feel you cannot stop and you have to worry, put a time frame on that. Okay, I know I'm going to worry. Put a time frame. I will do that for maybe 20 minutes. And this is the time, this is my worry time. This is where I'm going to offload my time. If it's going to be 12, and then after that, you have to stop.
Yeah.
You can actually timetable it, you know, whether you want to do it in the afternoon, morning, it doesn't matter, whatever time suits you. And then you stop, because it's actually difficult not to worry, especially when you're stressing about something. So what I say is, please worry, knock yourself out, timetable it, be specific, 15, 20 minutes, and then move on. And there's something else I want to add to, is perhaps challenging ourselves to try something new experience, outside work, outside the family, just for yourself, for your own, you know, it could be anything. It could be anything. I discovered yoga, dynamic yoga, because when they talked to me about yoga, I thought, no, but this has actually, you know, I was saying to some friends, I fell asleep in the yoga class. That was how relaxed I was, you know. So yeah, so that's all I'm going to add to this.
I really like, because I'm kind of person that likes routine. I need to put structure in place. So I really like the idea of tabling the time to worry, because like you said, everybody worries.
And I think another thing, Lola, is that people kind of think, oh, I shouldn't worry. And when they find themselves worrying, they're like, oh, the doctor said I shouldn't worry. I must be weak. I must be, you know, I'm doing something wrong. No, worry is, it's, you know, there's worry sometimes normal. I mean, you know, we need to have some level of anxiety to live in this, the kind of world we're in. So definitely structure some time, don't overdo it. But if you're the kind of person that I need some time to just kind of, you know, twist in the wind for 10 minutes, then do that. But then once you set a timer, once the timer is off, move on to something else.
That's it.
Because your worry, what you also need to understand is when you're anxious or worried, if you think about it, let's even say you didn't even set a timer or structure or anything and you're anxious, you're not anxious for 24/7. Nobody is. That anxiety is episodic. And then it dissipates and then it comes back. And then, so just be mindful of that. Know that, okay, fine, I'm probably anxious about something for 10, 15 minutes. And then there's going to be a break. I'm not going to be constantly anxious for 24 hours. You die of a heart attack. So even if you don't do anything, the anxiety dissipates and then it comes back again. So you can put that structure in place. I'll do this for 10 minutes. Come 10 minutes, I'm moving on to something else. I've given worry its time, and it's time to move on to something else.
Thank you so much. I want to quickly go into the chat. We have some questions. So we have one from Efunike, who's asking, was saying that we touched on the fact that employers are not quite yet clued into the importance of mental health at work. How can this be addressed in a manner that is kind of bite-sized or lightly introduced, so they can key into incorporating it into the workplace without being seen as an added burden? I like that question.
So again, it's about education. It's about education and training. And like Chinwe said, you know, you have to start with the top. The top have to understand the importance of these things. They have to understand what mental well-being at work is about. Because if they, I mean, like Ajo, you said there was somebody who said, well, they have jobs, they should be grateful or something. That's, can you imagine trying to have a discussion with that man about, well, you know, your mental well-being is important because they are the ones who are carrying out the work. So it's about education. And there's always something about leadership styles come into play. So, you know, there's not a right or wrong way to lead, but there's always something about leading from within. Because so if you, that's why if you look at AA groups, the premise of how an Alcoholics or Addictions Anonymous group is set up is that the person leading the group has lived that experience of what he's telling the other people in the group. So he's not telling you something he's read or something he has lived what he's telling you. So when you have employees who are within the group, they see the pressures, they see how their frontline staff are struggling, they see what struggles are facing their employees, and they're taking that on board. They're not sitting in some office somewhere and dictating and delegating and telling people what to do. There's a lot more buy-in from the employers as to, okay, this guy, he's one of us, he gets it, he understands where we're coming from. So it's about making sure that there's training, there's awareness, they're starting with the top. There's maybe looking at different leadership styles. Another thing Ajo spoke about was how do we get the employees involved? And it brought things like, I was thinking of tame, wicked, and critical problems. So again, it's a different leadership style when it comes to that. So a complex, critical problem is like COVID, let's use COVID as an example. When we all had to change our styles of working across the world, that's the time to involve your employees. This is not, I'm the leader telling you guys what to do. This is the time to say, you know what, we're all in this together. We're all facing the pandemic. We all have to try and find a way around it. What do you guys think? And then there's ownership. There's ownership.
If that doesn't happen, it's not going to work. Yes,
exactly.
all this lockdown stuff.
Exactly. There's ownership in the decision, so the people feel valued. Oh, he wanted to hear what I have to say. I made a contribution. They took on board what I said. That's how you get people to buy in and work with you. So we have to start at the top by training the whoever it is, the organization leads, and then that should filter down, hopefully, throughout the rest of the company.
Can I also add about role modeling? So role model. So even if you're not the chief exec, you're the team manager, and just role modeling the values. So say, for example, and then I give this, if you are a team manager and your team members don't feel they're able to come and talk to you about their workload, or they don't have the resources to do their jobs properly, then we need, they're stressing out, your response is sending memo, you've not done this, you've not met this target, you've not. So as team managers, even at that level, they also need training and education, and they also need self-reflection on their leadership style, because we need to get away from thinking of the workplace as, oh, we're going to go and make money or earn money. Yes, we are. But the workplace as well should be a place where employees will thrive and have aspirations. So if I feel that I am listened to by my line manager and they engage me in the discussion, I feel able to talk to them when I'm struggling. When there's a crisis and it's a case of we have to sleep in the office for 48 hours, it will not even cross my mind to question it. It will be like, how are we going to get through this? Because for me, this company I am part of this company. This part is part of me. So if I'm doing it for the company, I'm doing it for myself. That would be the employee's mindset. So, so we don't need to have any big, let's change the whole place to, look like Google and be all fancy. It is nice for the place to be clean. We should expect your employees to, just as you want to be the clean place. So the basics need to be there. But actually, yes, it is
safety. We talked about, we're supposed to talk about safety and happiness, wellness.
Yes, fun. I'm a strong advocate for fun. Without fun, I can't see how anyone is going to have a meaningful experience at work. If you're just don't get me wrong, it's appropriate at depending on the time, but I'm also somebody where you should be able to have a laugh with your employees, have some humor, just have some downtime, because that's how you kind of replenish on your energy levels. So I'm a big advocate for fun in small bursts in the workplace.
And show your employees appreciation.
Any more questions?
Yeah, there's one from
June. There's a comment, but I'll just recap quickly. So I would say bite size or likely ways to introduce it is training, is finding a champion within the organization, is leading by example, if I'm correct, yourself as the head of the organization, ensuring that there's fun and that the voice of the employee is being heard.
Yeah.
So those little things
And
could be
involve
something
them.
that could start off with, yes, and involve
Absolutely.
them as well in
And
decision
yeah,
making. So
and
the
get
last comment was from Julie. I'm assuming Julie has quite a team that she manages from this comment. So she's saying, how does, I guess, not delegating work help with mental health, and how, I guess, she's feeling a bit guilty that she does that. But because she's saying, I don't mean that we should remain idle while our subordinates do all the work, but they're subordinates, they're supposed to be doing most of the work anyway. But that's my own view. But how do you share the workload within people so that you have more time to be able to manage your own work-life balance? So I guess for her as a team lead with several employees or several people underneath her, how, I guess, she's commenting that delegating some of the tasks would help with her own work-life balance.
You know what, Julie?
I think that's, yeah.
Delegation, your delegation is somebody else's learning. When you delegate a task to somebody else, that person is developing the skills to do that task. And in medicine, it's an apprenticeship. That's how we all learn in medicine. So if your consultant does not delegate a task to you, there's no how the specialist registrar is going to learn how to do something. If the specialist registrar doesn't delegate a task to the core trainee, there's no how the core trainee is going to learn something. So, you know, as long as you're doing it in moderation, because you do have some people who just dump everything on their employees and everything in moderation, but there's definitely delegation done well is actually, it frees up time for you, the higher up, to do more strategic things. And it helps the people who are lower down on the experience scale gain the learning and the experience they need. So as long as you're doing it properly, it's not bad.
And I think just to add to that as well, Kemi, is that let's not feel that we can and we need to do everything ourselves. That is where the stress levels start to build up, because it's like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. I think again, Lola knows the story anyway. But we also need to understand that we can always ask for help, which is what an organization is all about. In as much as we tend to feel that we don't want to look like we don't know how to do it, right? We need to also understand that there's no harm in asking for help. And also it's the self-criticism aspect. We tend to criticize ourselves a lot. And again, that is where the mindfulness aspect comes in. Think about the strengths that you have. And when you've done something and you know that you've done it well, or when your employee has done something and they've done it well, tell them about it, to make it a big song and dance in the organization so that everybody knows. When you have done something good as well, give yourself a pat on the back and stop self-criticizing all the time. But always ask for help, because there's help out there.
Yeah, celebrating the wins, no matter how small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, just for people to know that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It absolutely isn't. It's actually a sign of strength.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
Yeah. When you don't ask for help,
I'm
do something wrong.
I'm still working on asking for help. I'm really, really bad. I'm really, really bad. I have always seen it as a sign of weakness. So it's good to hear.
Nah. Think of it from a medicine point of view. Because it's a sign of weakness, I'm going to do, and then you go and kill somebody. When all you have to do is ask, well, can someone help me? So knowing your limitations and asking for help are not signs of weakness at all. They're actually what you need to do in order to be the best version of yourself you can be, productive, professionally and personally.
On that note, I think we should end this. It has been very interesting, I think. We will be saving it on our pages. So if you want to go back and listen to it, it will always be out there available for you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, ladies. It's been fun. And we're going to do this again sometime. Maybe we talk more about.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, ladies. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.